call this June 15th Jackson County Commission work session to order, and welcome everybody here this evening. We are here to we'll have a quick work session before we get started and then move into the community meeting. And the focus for our community meeting will be talking about the sales tax, go over some facts and figures and thoughts on that, and then open it up for any questions or comments or criticisms or concerns that anybody has regarding county government, how we're involved, or any of the processes that we have. So again, welcome. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for taking the time to understand a little bit more about what county government's doing. And we'll get started. Have our roll call.
District 1, Mr. Guffey.
Present.
District 2, Mr. Venable.
Present.
District 3, Mr. Miller.
Present.
District 4, Mr. Little.
Present.
Chairman also.
Okay, so quorum is present. We'll have our invocation by Mr. Porter and our pledge by Mr. Miller.
God, our Father, we're blessed to be here today. We're so thankful for the natural beauty that you provided for us to live in. We see it around us today. We're so thankful for that. We're thankful for the people that are represented here and all the people in Jackson County that these men are elected to represent. God, we pray for wisdom and discernment on their part as they make decisions that affect all the county. Watch over us and guide us in Christ's name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, the approval of the agenda. We have 2 items on the agenda. Any changes before we proceed? Have a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Make a motion.
Motion, we have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. We've had one person sign up. Mr. Burton, did you want to speak or have anything? Okay. All right. So we'll move on to our discussion items. The first item is regarding the litigation and insolvency in the year of 2014. This is something, again, that's done annually. Mr. Porter, can you shed some light on what this process is?
I don't really have, this is something that the Revenue Commission is required to do, to report this, and he's also required to report this to the State Department of Revenue. That's all this is, to show what is insolvent and what's been litigated.
Any questions or comments on this item? I think, again, this was for the 2014, for this was referring to our 2014 tax year. Okay, if there's no questions, then we'll move this to the agenda next week for approval. The next item is regarding contract for DAR Pro Solutions. And Sheriff, if you want to kind of tell what this is for, the jail, what's the word I'm looking for? Oil consumption, or oil use of the jail?
In the kitchen, instead of pouring the oil or the grease down the drain, it's been stopping it up. These people come and get it for free. They've already delivered us a container to pour it up in. Doesn't cost anything other than the fact that you have to sign a 3-year contract with them. They come out of Birmingham to get it, I think, once a month. And it'll keep us from, I think Stacy's actually worked on the drain. It's just, the grease just gets caked up in there and stops up the drains in the kitchen, and so this will prevent that, hopefully.
Questions or comments on this? Yes, sir.
We couldn't find anybody.
Any other questions or comments? I seem to remember, I think most folks are out of Chattanooga, places like that to do this. And there is no cost to the county in this. It's simply so that they can come and pick that up, and it doesn't go down the drain and cause problems for not just us, but for the sewer system too. Any other questions or comments? We're under no contract right now, so this is a new contract. Mr. Porter, if you will, take the time to review before next meeting. If we have any other questions then. So, okay, with that then, if there's no objection, we'll place that on the agenda for next Monday night as well. That concludes our really quick work session. And the reason we do the work session, can everyone hear me okay? Do I need to stand up or we good? I have a microphone if I need it. Do I?
Stand up.
Stand up, okay.
Don't know you're in charge.
Okay. The reason that we do the work session, again, we had some very light stuff tonight, but we want to share with you a little bit about some of the things that are going on in the county. This is some of the county business, as exciting as it is from time to time, but we did want to do that first and kind of share that. Next, I do want to go into the discussion on the sales tax and then open it up for any types of comments or questions. This is the big reason why we're here tonight. Now, started when we first came into office, we began community meetings and started going out through the county and went to different areas of the county. Every quarter, we would try to get to a different district. With the sales tax, of course, we tried to pump that up and amp it up a bit and get out. We've been every 2 weeks, every other week, we've been to a different community to discuss the sales tax, talk about the things that we've got going on, and just kind of focus on what it is that the county is doing for the citizens of Jackson County. So that's why we're here tonight, to talk about that and go over some things. So I'll go over some did you know facts, some talks a little bit about the revenue sources that we have, talk about why it is that we're pursuing this sales tax. Commissioners may have some things to add, and then we'll open it up to any questions or comments from the community about this or anything, like I said, that we've got going on in the county. So the first thing I want to make sure that everybody understands is the county currently gets zero of the current sales tax. We get nothing from the current sales tax. There's a 9-cent sales tax in the city of Scottsboro. 4 cents of that goes to the state. 2 cents of that goes to both county and city education, and then the other 3 cents goes to the city of Scottsboro. So the county gets nothing from that pie that's currently in place. The biggest portion of our revenue after gas tax, which funds public works completely, is the property tax. Property tax, and then I know a lot of folks have heard about TVA in lieu of tax would be the next biggest source of revenue. So the property tax over the past, we've been looking since 2011, has pretty well stayed stable. We've not seen any increases in property tax or any new revenues really from property tax. And before that time, there was only a slight increase, I think we saw from 2007 to 2011. Is that correct?
2007, I think, it was small.
Okay. So property tax is not necessarily a growth tax. It's not something that's going to grow as your community grows, which is one purpose and one reason why we're looking at this sales tax. To talk a little bit about our budget, when we came into office, we had a $1.8, $1.9 million deficit when you put everything together. And we've worked over the past couple years to cut that. We've worked very, very hard to try to cut the deficit out, cut a lot of expenses that we felt were unnecessary. A big part of that reduction, we've cut over 16 full-time staff members for the county, eliminated waste. I talked about, we had several contracts in place that weren't necessary. Try to be more responsible with a lot of the ways that we spend dollars. Mr. Manning came to me one day with a check we were writing every month for $25, asking if that's, is this a legitimate charge? And we look into it, it was, but that's the kind of things that we've been doing over the past 2.5 years, is looking at every expense that we make to make sure that that is something that needs to be done. So through that, we've been able to eliminate quite a bit of waste, quite a bit of expenses that we felt weren't necessary. And when we passed the budget this last year, we passed from what was a $1.7 million deficit. In reality, we now have a $350,000 deficit is what we essentially passed for this fiscal year. So we've done a lot of cuts. We've tried to show folks that we are responsible. And we had the radio show this morning. There's a question asked, if we get this tax, are we going to change the way we do business? We're going to continue to be responsible with the dollars, whatever the dollars are. So I hope that what we've done so far is proof that we will do that regardless of the dollars that the people give us to work with. Some facts on the revenues, what we receive for the $36.25 that you pay when you go and get your driver's license. The county gets $1.50 of that. When you get a car tag, there's a fee for $24.25 on that car tag. The county gets $1.25 of that. So the point of those two instances, and a slew of different instances, when you go to the county courthouse and you get business licenses and you pay these different fees on tags and all these different things, the county in reality is getting a very small portion of that. Like I said, the biggest thing we get is property tax, and when you pay your property tax bill, we may get anything from 8% to 30% of what it is you're paying. So we're not even getting that whole check that you're paying for your property tax bill. And that's what we have to run our county government on, the sheriff's department, just operating day-to-day, having the lights and everything else turned on so that we can have all the offices operating within the courthouse, paving roads, and so on and so forth. Now, in recent years, we've had several issues with our revenue streams downsizing in a sense. Our gas tax is down $300,000 in the past 4 years. TVA in lieu of tax, which is the one that's a real big discussion right now, it's down $432,000 in the past 2.5 or 3 years. Is that correct? Since 2012, $432,000. We were receiving at one point in time, if you look back at the books, when the economy was good and when there were dollars in the bank, we were receiving $260,000 worth of interest payments. That's down to $30,000. So our revenues have decreased over the years. And of course, the cost of everything goes up. The cost of paving goes up. The cost to keep the lights on goes up. The cost to do business continues to go up, even with those wages dropping, or those dollars dropping. Now, getting into the paving aspect of it, that's a big part of what this tax is about. We paved, or we funded 12 miles of roadway last year. If we were to continue to fund roadways at that rate, it'd take us 90 years to get back to the roads we paved last year. Now, here in the city of Scottsboro, we have county roads that run through the city of Scottsboro as well. So, we do have a tie in that. I will focus a little bit, since this is a Scottsboro community meeting, on how these things relate to Scottsboro. But again, 90 years to get back to the roads that we paved last year, that's not sustainable. We know that's not sustainable. In order to do something, we have to find some other source of revenue in order to take care of our roadways and keep the paving down. The cost of paving has gone up 2 to 3 times just in the past 10 years, maybe even more than that, compared to some of the things I've heard from previous commissioners. And like I said, gas tax is down. Now, why are we pursuing a sales tax as opposed to something like a property tax or some of these other fees and things that we have in place? One aspect of why not a property tax. A property tax, we would have to more than double our portion to get the same amount we're looking at in the sales tax. So, in other words, if we doubled the amount of property tax that we're getting, if we doubled that tomorrow, we still would not be getting the same amount of dollars that this sales tax plans to bring in. That's pretty profound in itself. Another aspect of this is that now not only do the citizens of Jackson County, obviously now we're going to be supporting our local government through sales tax, but all those folks that come in from outside our community. I mean, we're here in this beautiful area here. We know the resources that we have, but now these fishermen, the boaters, the hikers, the campers, all those folks that come into Scottsboro and Jackson County from outside the area, now they're going to help support our resources and the things that we've got to do on a day-to-day basis, not just put it on the backs of Jackson County citizens. So that's a huge aspect of that as well. Now, we talked about a $5 tag fee. We talked about some of these other little fees to try to shore up the budget deficit. But what we're looking at here is not just to kick the can down the road. We're not looking for, let's try to fix this for tomorrow. We're looking for a long-term fix. The goal here is to not have to come back in 2 or 3 years or 5 or 10 years, and hopefully 20 years, we won't have to come back and say we need more dollars to operate. The goal here is to get a solution that's going to be long-term. As your economy grows, your sales tax grows, and that can allow for then the county government to provide the services that it needs as that community grows. I did some calculations. If we had an industry come in tomorrow with 500 new jobs in it, every one of those folks built a $120,000 home. That's $37,000 the county gets off of that. We can pave 1 mile of roadway basically for 500 jobs. Now we're going to work for 500 jobs, and we're going to do all we can to make that happen. But it still doesn't help us provide the services that we have to provide for those 500 new people that may come in. So that's why it's so important that we believe and why we pursue the sales tax. Now, why do we want to? What are we going to use this sales tax for? The biggest portion, as I've said, is funding for our maintenance of our county roads. In a couple of weeks, we hope to be able to present a breakdown of where we plan to put these dollars for the first several years. We're working on that, and hopefully we can do that in the next couple of weeks. But the biggest portion of it will go to maintenance of our roadways because, again, the cost has become so tremendous and so expensive. A second thing would be the support of the provision of resource officers in our schools. We provide so many services here in the city, throughout the county, with our officers as it is. We may have 4 officers, 4 deputies on the road at any given time, but at the same time, those folks are provided doing all these other things, which we'll get into a little bit more in a moment about what they're involved with. But, you know, if there's a call at Skyline or Bryant or wherever else, one of those 4 deputies that are doing their business or doing whatever needs to be done have to respond to that, and the time it takes to respond to that is not good as it stands. So we want to be able to provide those officers for that aspect, to have more deputies in those areas. But even more importantly, in a sense, is to be able to have those deputies in the schools. Here in Scottsboro, of course, we have resource officers, but out in the county, I don't know that any county schools have a resource officer. Is that right? So, you know, again, if we have a deputy in Skyline, they can then take care of any issues that may occur at the school there. They may hopefully be able to deter any problems that may occur there. And if there just so happens to be an emergency situation, then we have a deputy then that can respond to that in that area. So that's an incredibly important part of the resource officers. Support of the fire departments throughout Jackson County. This has probably become one of the, you know, it's a very key thing in this whole process. With some changes in funding, all but 3 departments in the county essentially have reduced funding for their fire departments. There are a few departments outside of the mix, but essentially all the volunteer fire departments in the Fire Association will have reduced funding in the coming years. Now, Scottsboro, Stevenson, and Bridgeport actually have increased funding, but the way this affects Scottsboro is still pretty important. Let's say that Limrock Aspel or Hollywood or any of the fire departments that are around Scottsboro, if one of them do have to close because of the lack of funding, and from the Fire Association, from what they tell us, there are some that are threatened to close because they can't pay for the insurance and pay for the supplies that they need. But if one of them are to close, and that means Scottsboro now has to spread its resources. We've got to send our fire departments or our fire trucks out into areas of the county to cover more areas because we've got fewer coverages there. A good example that I used last week or 2 weeks ago, we were in Macedonia. Macedonia will be struggling. They are struggling. If they have to close down, you know, Section and Langston, you know, those areas are going to have to pick up that coverage area. So now, you know, you may live in Section and think, well, I'm going to be fine, but no, because now your fire department may be, you know, in Macedonia when you need them, or you know, so on and so forth. Now, if you live in an area where a fire department closes down, obviously that's going to affect your insurance rates, and that in itself is going to be a tremendous cost. But even above all of those things, when you get past the cost, when you get past the aspect of, you know, where our resources going, if, you know, we live in Scottsboro, but we're having to send our resources out in the county now because the funds aren't there. Just from the basic notion, these folks are volunteers. We have 22, I think, volunteer fire departments in the county. They put their lives on the line for us. They respond to wrecks. They respond to fires. They get out there and clear off roads in cases of emergency. You know, all the things that they do for us, and the county does not give them any type of annual appropriation. Now, if they're in a time of dire need and they need some sort of new revenue in order to take care of the situation, I think it's the county's responsibility to participate in that for both reasons, both to help them out and just for the fact that, again, these folks are putting their lives on the line for us and getting nothing really in return other than the satisfaction of what they're giving back to their community. So I think that's important that we participate in that. Next thing, assist in community, industrial, and business development. This is probably one of the biggest things. You know, we talked about, when all of us ran, we talked about investing in industry, investing in business, making our communities better, stronger, so on and so forth. We can't do that when we don't have the dollars to invest. Now, I've been saying a lot lately, you know, we've been very busy industrial-wise. There are a lot of things going on. Hopefully, we'll be able to get some industry landed here in Scottsboro or in Jackson County. But a lot of times when you do that, you have to put money on the table. You've got to be able to invest and say, you know, this is what we're going to give you if you come to this area. And that's one position that we're not in a very good position to do right now. We've got essentially $2 million in the bank. That's our piggy bank. Once that piggy bank is gone, we've got nothing. And we've been incredibly conservative about spending anything out of that piggy bank because we don't know what's going to happen. If the tax doesn't pass, again, that's all we have to survive on until some other solution, or, you know, we'll have to make the cuts, obviously, that we're talking about. So we have to be able to invest in those things if we want things like that to happen. If we want the better paying jobs, if we want to, you know, the investments on Highway 72 with the old Kmart building and the old Food World building, that was done because of basically money that's put on the table. It's done through a rebate program that the city of Scottsboro is doing, but that's how they're attracting those businesses. And, you know, the landscape is changing. In order to attract businesses and industry, you have to put things like that on the table. So if we want to see that in Jackson County as a whole, we've got to be able to invest in that. And then the final thing would be to fund and shore up the remaining budget deficit that we have and get things done, you know, take care of things that need to be taken care of. You know, you walk in the courthouse, it's a beautiful building, it's an old building, but if there's a lot of things that need to be done to that courthouse, and we're talking just maintenance aspects of it, whether it's this building, which is a county building, the courthouse, or any of the facilities that we have, we've got to be able to maintain them, or we end up with what we did with the building up on the ridge across from First National Bank. We had to tear it down. If we don't take care of the buildings, our assets, then we're not going to have those assets. You know, people ask, you know, why don't you just cut $350,000? Because that takes care of the deficit. That doesn't take care of all these other things, though, and it definitely doesn't take care of our aging infrastructure we have as far as buildings and things like that. So that's a quick overview of some of the facts, a quick overview of why we want to pursue this. Real quickly, one last thing I want to go over with this group is how we're involved in Scottsboro and how some of those things relate to the city of Scottsboro, and then we'll open it up for any questions or comments. But first thing, activities where the county is involved in Scottsboro. Folks don't realize, I don't think, how involved the sheriff's department is with the city of Scottsboro and the different processes that we have in place. And Sheriff or Chief Deputy, you guys could kind of share some of the aspects of that.
First of all, if Scottsboro Police Department makes a felony arrest, the county takes it over. It comes through our jail. They don't house them down there, they only house misdemeanors. So, you know, the county picks up the bill on bringing them to the jail. We serve all the court papers. There's a number of court papers, and I'm sure John can probably name them better than I can, but the subpoenas we serve, we do all the evictions. Any mental pickup order that the probate judge's office brings, we have to sit with them, babysit them at the hospital until they find a place. Sometimes that can be as much as 24 hours or more. Victor's been a big help with us at that. He's been coming down there himself and sitting a lot of times, which, like Matthew said, we only have from 12 o'clock in the daytime to 12 o'clock at night. If every deputy I have working, there's only 5. Now, very seldom does that happen. One's going to be on vacation. One's going to be sick. We're going to have to make trips. So there's days when we only have 1, 2, maybe 3 deputies to cover this whole county. So that puts a big, big burden on us. We need some more deputies, and the school resource officers will help us tremendously. They won't be allowed to leave the school just for any reason. If it's an emergency case where, you know, life's in danger or something, then yes, they can leave the school and probably be a lot closer than some of my cars would be, other deputies. What's some of the other papers we serve?
Juvenile trips.
Yeah, we make all the juvenile trips. Let's say we pick up a juvenile tonight at 7 o'clock. Well, we can't house him in the county jail. There's no facility in this county or in the neighboring counties. We have to take them down below Jackson to Anniston to house them. In the morning, they've got to have a hearing. We have to go back in the morning and have them back here by 9 o'clock. So that's 2 trips if you arrest 1 juvenile that we have to make. Those type of things that we do a lot of that people just don't know about. One thing I brought up at one of the other meetings, over the years, past sheriffs, Mike Wells and Dennis, we were able to, when we had federal inmates, we were able to build up an account there when Mike was sheriff, and we've been buying cars out of that account for many, many, many years. That account will not last about 3 more years, maybe 4 if we're lucky. And that's going to fall to about $100,000 a year that the commission's going to have to start buying cars for the sheriff's office. We've been really lucky. We've tried to get the federal inmates back. We've been approved. The jail's been approved, but there's just no inmates. There's no federal inmates. Nobody's anybody in jail, apparently, in the federal system, I guess. I don't know. But even the other agencies that's been housing federal inmates, they have dropped tremendously. So we're not going to make any money by doing that. We've tried. We've really struggled. And Rocky, being retired from DEA, he knows all those people in the federal system. He's called and talked to all of them about trying to get us federal inmates so we can, keep some of that money coming in. It's not going to happen. So we're relying strictly on the commission for our budget.
Thank you, Sheriff. So that, again, the a review into some of the things that we do for the city of Scottsboro, or really all the municipalities, when it comes to our sheriff's department, there really is a whole lot that's involved in that process. Benefits to the schools from our county taxes. One big thing that I think we don't focus on enough is when we invest in industrial development, if that business goes anywhere from Pisgah, Stevenson, Paint Rock Valley, anywhere that we invest in business, our taxes are abated, municipality taxes are abated, but education's taxes are not abated. So whenever we put business anywhere in this county, we are helping education in both the county schools and the city of Scottsboro. It doesn't matter where that industry goes. I think that's an important aspect, again, to how the county and city are so well tied together and the involvement in our processes. The county park, we have county park. We've talked about some different projects here that would increase the revenue. Obviously, that supports the city of Scottsboro through some different taxes, gas tax, lodging tax, folks that stay out here shop in the city of Scottsboro, so there are a lot of benefits there. And then, of course, the county maintains several boat ramps throughout the county, which, again, those dollars, whether it be Scottsboro, Stevenson, Bridgeport, when people come in and utilize those boat ramps, they're usually shopping in these communities, and they're helping support, again, all of our infrastructure and our services. So those are some of the things that we do that help support municipalities within Jackson County. Now, some of the things that we fund directly that may impact you directly or may impact other communities, libraries, the rescue squad, the health department's a big one. We were told when we came into office that if we didn't continue to support the health department, they were going to have to lose a health inspector. So we have 2 health inspectors in Jackson County right now. If it weren't for the funding on one of those, we'd be down to 1. We felt it was important to try to keep 2 in this county. We did cut back some of cut back that support last year due to the funding situation. And we may have to cut back further, but that, I think, is an important aspect of something we supply. The senior center, again, the building we're in here, and the what's the word I'm looking for? Projects and processes and different events and things that we have here. Again, this is supported by Jackson County dollars as well. So, public transportation, which is a huge program. That's essentially a federal and local match program. We match with what we do along with the TVA and lift taxes about $100,000. And when we put that $100,000, basically the federal government, essentially another $100,000 they're putting into it. Is that correct, Ms. Thurman? So, those are dollars that are supporting the public transportation program. That's a huge program, not just for Scottsboro, obviously, that's for everybody in the county. Brings folks to doctors and brings folks to centers like this and all the other programs. Senior RX, which is the Senior Meds program, that is a county program, county department that we operate. A lot of their dollars do come in for federal dollars also, but we support that. Boys and Girls Club, the 4-H program through the Extension Office, the Career Center, Impact Learning Center. When we talk about it in industrial and business development, we've got a lot of involvement with those processes. The ARC of Jackson County, Red Cross, Community Action, we provide places for those agencies. And what was probably the most or biggest surprise to me was all the state agencies that utilize our facilities, even in the courthouse, from the driver's license to the to parole. We've got forestry, we've got state troopers. We provide a place for several state offices that, again, it's just to show that we are involved as a big part of this process in the community. Now, specifically, some projects that we've helped funded, and this is, again, when we talk about community development, things that we want to participate in. The downtown renovation project, that's an 80-20 grant. The county has committed to participating in that. I think that's going to be a huge benefit for the city of Scottsboro. We've done smaller sidewalk projects in both Woodville and Bridgeport. The airport project, the state couldn't come through with funding there for the city of Scottsboro, so the county stepped up, and we wanted to support that, again, from an industrial and business development standpoint. The point of showing all this is to show you that we want to participate, we want to be involved, we want to help where that help is needed, and of course we do participate quite a bit from the number of agencies that we support. But that's what county government is, and when we take county government out of the picture, which a lot of those items that I told you we support directly with dollars, if the tax doesn't pass, those will be the things that have to be cut first, because we've got to protect our core business, which is selling tags and marriage licenses and getting your property tax paid. That's our core business. We have to do that. But these other agencies, it's something that we all benefit from. So again, I think it's important that the county be involved and participate in those aspects. So, again, all very quickly, we could talk for probably tens and 20s of hours talking about the details and all the different facts of this, but we'll open it up. Do the commissioners have anything they want to add to any of that data before we move
You
on?
not mention what the tax will not be held toward.
Such as?
Vehicles, real estate, what won't be taxed.
Oh, yeah, one important thing, we talked about how this is going to apply for you. I figured it up for myself. It's about $30 per member in my family, so it's about $120 a year is what this tax is going to cost me. Now, everyone's got to figure that out for themselves. But the things that, to put that in perspective, the things that this does not affect, doesn't affect your housing, for rent or your mortgage, does not affect gas, doesn't affect insurance, health care, any charitable gifts, does not affect utilities and things like that. So this is when you go to Walmart, this is when you buy TVs, clothes, things like that. That's what this tax is affecting. And based on data, again, we've looked at, it's about 23% on average, 23% of our income is what we spend on taxable items. So that's kind of what we're looking at as far as the revenue. Again, everyone gets to pitch in on this, not just Jackson County citizens, but citizens from outside Jackson County. And I think that's the biggest benefit we get, is those folks are spending dollars really on those taxable items, and we can now start to benefit from that. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anything else? Any other points? Mr. Guffey? Mr. Levin? Okay. So with that, we'll open it up to questions, comments, like I said, if you want criticisms, and we'll just take that too, or concerns, anything you've got. Everybody's 100% on board, and we'll go ahead and vote on it tomorrow. Yes?
Thank you. We came in late, you may have covered this. What, if it passes, what does the anticipated total revenue increase?
Okay, we expect $3.3 million to benefit from this sales tax. Like I mentioned, our deficit's $350,000, and this is, again, a big question that we get. Why do you need $3.3 million if your deficit's $350,000? Because we don't have the money to pay roads right now. These fire departments don't have the money to do, what they need to do. We don't have, the deputies on the road that we need to have. So the money's not there now. What we're saying is we either go backwards or go forwards. There is no status quo. We cannot maintain even the level of service that we have. So that's why we're saying, asking for $3.3 million, because we're looking not only to maintain the service we have, but be able to, when in the sense of the fire departments, that is maintaining the service, but be able to pave some roads and have a few deputies on the road and invest in industrial development. I think that's, to me, like I said, there's so much going on right now, but to be able to invest in industrial development, the benefits from that will be huge. Yes.
One thing too is a lot of the organizations that we support, like our senior center, rescue squad, a lot of those we've already cut 40–50%. So just to get to where we're at a $300,000 deficit. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew we've already cut just about as much as we can cut without cutting stuff out. And that's the last thing we want to do is cut stuff out.
Yeah, that's the important aspect of those cuts. We have cut where we feel we've cut to where it hasn't hurt too much. If it has hurt some folks, it's not been a tremendous amount. But we feel like any further cuts are definitely going to be very painful because a lot of folks do depend on these resources. We as county residents, city and county residents depend on this as well. Yes.
Once this tax goes on there, does it ever come off, or does it just stay there? I think that's what most people worry about.
Right.
Once they start paying, does it ever come off?
There is no thing in this that says that tax will ever come off. There's two benefits to having the sales tax. So one benefit is it is a growth tax. I would hope, and if I'm here, if I'm not here, I don't know. But I would hope, again, we've got to hold our government responsible for what they say they're going to do with the dollars. If there's an opportunity to reduce the tax on food, you see that in several states and things like that. I think that would be very beneficial if we moved in that direction. As far as actually taking it off from the county, I think it would be detrimental to ever remove it from the county side. However, if it works out well enough, you could always supplement something for education and take maybe one of those pennies away. The problem with where the county's at is we don't participate in the sales tax at all. To me, every level of government, federal has the income, I'm not gonna get into that, but state, county, and local, you have to participate in sales tax to really, to be able to fluctuate, right? So, that's why it's important. So from our side of it, I would say no. Would there be an opportunity of cutting it in food in the future? Yes. Would there be an opportunity of maybe replacing some other tax that someone else that has a sales tax with either property or something? That opportunity is there.
Property tax.
Right.
I've lived in other states, and this is the lowest I've ever paid.
It's incredibly low.
Pay as much property tax now as we paid when we lived in Nashville 38 years ago.
Right. And, even from the property tax aspect, we could have pursued that, but when we said we're gonna have to raise it 9 mil as opposed to 1 cent sales tax, we think, one, that wouldn't have sold, and two, it doesn't grow. We need to be able to participate in sales
I
tax.
understand that. We need to do both of them.
Right, yeah, I think in the long term, what we're trying to get it fixed, and it's a process, but hopefully we can get there.
I'll congratulate you and I know all of the commission, all the people who've taken part in to come out and beat the people. There's going to be disagreements, that's everybody's privilege. But I'll tell you, I like what you say. And I know the commission, they were elected by the people to make these kinds of decisions for us. And I'm still supporting.
We appreciate it.
I gotta go to another meeting.
Yes.
I'd like to know, the bill states that it is a discretion of the commission as to how the dollars will be spent, and that all this money goes into the general fund for you to decide how to disperse it. Do you have any kind of a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan? What's your economic development plan for the monies you want out of this 1 cent sales tax?
That's what, like I said, we hope to have those numbers out in the next week or two. We've been looking at that and kind of seeing what the best way to pursue it. I think it's pretty understood half of these dollars will go towards roadways, but as far as the split between the rest of them, we should have something out in the next week or two that outlines that. Now, as far as, earmarking, that's going to be, in the sense how we earmark it, we're going to say this is where we plan to spend the dollars. I believe when you earmark it from a legislative level, you tell your government, why are you there? I mean, the money's doing what it needs to be doing. They don't really need us to make those decisions. We're here to make decisions in hard times, I think. The state's in a position right now, 90% of their funds are earmarked, and they have no wiggle room. They can't make things move around to make their budget work. We don't want to be in that situation in the future. We think this is a solution, and we hopefully won't have to be there. But again, if we don't do what we say we're going to do with it, take us out and put someone else in.
What date will the plan be out for the public to read? Are you going to publish it in the paper?
Yes, we'll have it to the papers, we'll put it with the radio discussion we have. We'll have it just as we've had everything else. We'll have it available for anybody that wants to see it and anybody that cares to read it. It'll be available to them.
So all of us senior citizens can quit worrying about you threatening us about having to cut our senior programs.
I'm not threatening anybody.
Every time I've listened to you speak, Matthew, and I've missed a couple meetings, and that was my fault, but I've listened to everybody. And it's all well and good to say we need this money, but to say we have to turn your roads to dirt or church, which I've heard several times, and I've heard before that you might have to cut the Senior RX program, you might have to cut maybe Meals on Wheels some. Just tell the people what you need and quit trying to tell us what we don't need.
The people have asked us, why are we pursuing this? The only way the best way we know how to tell them is that these are the programs that we fund that we cannot continue to fund if the tax doesn't pass. I apologize if it comes across as a threat. That's not the intention at all. Our purpose for this commission has been to put all the information out there. It's for the people to decide, do you want to go this way or this way? We just want the people to know what those two options are. So I do apologize if it comes across as a threat, but we feel like we have to put the information out there if the people are truly going to understand what these dollars are going for.
But you don't know what the dollars are going for yet.
No, all these things that we're talking about.
Not for the meeting, but yes, we do have an idea of what percentage of this money is going where.
Yeah.
And will be posted to the next
It's
meeting.
spelled out in the bill.
Right, and like he says, yeah, in the bill, it says that the 5 different things, which I went over just a minute ago.
I
Those
know
are the
that's what
5
the bill
areas that
says. I
we're.
understand what the bill says, but that doesn't mean that you've got X number of dollars put towards each item on your bill.
Right.
There's no plan out there yet. It's coming in another 2 weeks. August 18th is the voting day.
Right.
I do want everybody to go out and vote. I want them to vote their conscience. Okay? But we need to know exactly what you're going to put the money towards.
We will have an outline and say this is our plan for the first few years. Again, if an industry comes in and says, we've got to put $1 million on the table, we're not going to shy away from having to do what we've got to
Look,
do.
I've lived in this county for 20 years. I'm not a native, but I love Jackson County. I've not seen that much industry come to the county as I have seen it come to the city, which is fine for the city, okay? But what does the county get out of those businesses that have moved into the Scottsboro Industrial Park versus the Jackson County Industrial Park? And why are other businesses still leaving? And what is it you have to put up to really get somebody to come here?
We have to put dollars up.
If you're talking about like New York City, who's losing all their manufacturing practically, or New York State, I should say, you know, they're already advertising a 10-year plan where no property tax, no utility bills, no this, no that. Come with us for 10 years, then they leave.
I think that the main point of that and the question, it doesn't matter if an industry locates in Scottsboro, Bridgeport, Stevenson, Pisgah, Paint Rock Valley, Skyline, wherever that industry is, there's a benefit to Jackson County because those are jobs that are available. Though our property taxes are abated for us, that's dollars for education that are being invested. And when that happens, again, hopefully, we can put some dollars into some industry we're working on right now and make some things happen. But that brings more attention to Jackson County. We've had, last year we had several industries expand in the Scottsboro Industrial Park. But when someone comes to Jackson County and says, let's take a look at your workforce, let's take a look at the environment you have, when they see someone in Scottsboro Industrial Park expanding, they see this is a good place to be. So they may go to Hollywood, they may go to Bridgeport or wherever else, but they use that. So wherever the industry is, it benefits everybody.
But most of them are going to the Scottsboro Industrial Park.
Well, that's where a lot of the infrastructure has been. Again, Hollywood Industrial Park, you see infrastructure. I think we're going to see some development there in the near future. And again, on industrial development, water, sewer, gas, if we ever want to see that industry in several places in the county, we've got to invest in that infrastructure to make it happen. So it's not going to happen if we don't invest in it. I think that's the bottom line of it.
And the numbers you're going to see in the next week or so, when we do get them established, will be approximate amount of money that will be put toward each thing. Because if it's not approximate, we might as well earmark every percentage of this thing, and that's what we're trying to do that. If you earmark everything, you tie your hands in it. These numbers will be approximate. That's what we're going to try to spend it on.
Well,
As the
let's see
situation
the numbers.
comes about, we should be able to put the money where needed to benefit every citizen in this county, rather than just a select few or what have you. You should give us that opportunity to be able to use that.
When you started this issue on the 1 cent sales tax increase, if you would have had all your ducks in a row at the time and been able to present these things to people, it's possible, I'm not saying it's probable, but it's possible people might see a different outlook on this.
Well, people look through different glasses, and it's evident. We can explain the same thing, we can give the same information. You may hear one thing and someone else hears another. We've been open, we give you all the information from the beginning. The way you take that information and the way you perceive it, of course, is up to the individual. The information has not changed.
But the information you're going to put out in the next 2 weeks is something that you should have had in mind and on paper when you started talking about it.
We had it in mind, it's already in the bill, it's listed.
No, the
We
dollar
can give you a
figures are
percentage.
not listed, even if they're
And you're not gonna
approximate,
get a dollar
Stacy.
percentage.
They're not listed.
Any
And so
other-
the discretion of the commission, you could spend that money on whatever you all want to spend it on. It doesn't matter.
As long as it lists those 5 things,
It doesn't
that's
matter. You
exactly
still
what we
can
can
make,
spend
you
it
can
on.
still spend that money any way you want
I
to.
think we need to vote on it, that's why we voted.
Right, we
That's
need to
right.
vote on it.
That's right.
Other comments and questions?
And if we are going to enjoy what is in this county, we are gonna have to vote for the sales tax. We have got to provide for ourselves and for those that will come after us. I'm not gonna have to pay sales tax long, you know, I'm 75, so, you know, I'm not gonna have to pay it long.
Well, you know,
But I
since you
need-
mentioned that, no one, I hate to be redundant, this is the same thing we've said for weeks and weeks and months, and I know it's getting old to the people that have heard it. No one enjoys proposing this sales tax. It's not something that we take enjoyment out of doing. This is about where we go from here. It's about maintaining the assets we have, and it's about growing the communities that he just spoke about. If you want to see industrial recruitment being done at Skyline, at Woodville, at Section, we've got to build the infrastructure. It's things that are hidden, it's in the ground, you don't see it, but it costs a lot of money to do that. And we're just to a point where cash flow is really dwindling down.
Yes.
Andy, I had two things I'd like to say. One is, we lived in Scottsboro for 20 years, and then my paycheck went to Atlanta. We had to follow. We lived in a community north of Atlanta called Roswell, Georgia. The taxes on our home went from $350 a year to just $3,000 a year. And I wasn't very happy about that until I saw what benefits we got. We had excellent roads, we had excellent schools, we had, I traveled most of the time, and my wife was home alone, and the alarm company called. And she said they had detected a motion sensor in the basement. Would she like the police? And she said yes. And I know it was a coincidence, but 2 or 3 minutes there was a policeman in their door. And they have to have money and funds to do that thing. And I think that nobody likes a tax increase, but we also need to be progressive enough to realize that there are some things that need to be done. The other thing I'd like to say, while I was in Atlanta, I was with Georgia Pacific, and it fell my lot to select the site, build a brand new plant. And you're absolutely right. One of the things we looked at was infrastructure that you have to have. And it's not something that is cheap. It's not something that will have an immediate payback, but it's something that has to happen. And that was probably one of the most interesting things that ever happened in my career, that my boss called me and said, oh, by the way, the board of directors just approved the new plant and it's your job. So, but I know what companies are looking for because I've personally been there.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
How did, it's not something I haven't asked before, how did you arrive at that $3.3 million figure that we're bringing?
We took the sales tax in place for education right now. The education sales tax is a countywide tax, so we took that portion of the sales tax that they're collecting and did, basically did the math. We took a monthly average. It fluctuates, obviously, so even that 3.3 million is somewhat approximate, but we're pretty confident that's fairly close to where it's going to be. And along those lines, you know, we talk about in this first year where we're going to spend those dollars. If this tax does pass August 18th, in October, it'll be up to the commission in October then to pass a resolution to actually adopt the tax. And we've talked about that tax not taking effect until January. So this first year, it'll basically be 3/4 worth and everything will be prorated by that. But again, just to know that we've got the resources coming in the future, we can begin to start planning on you know, the investment for those resources. Other questions, comments, concerns?
How much does it take to maintain a building like this?
Obvious. You know what the total, you know what your total budget, the problem with this particular building is that it operates off of 4 or 5 different budgets. So you've got the rural public transportation, you've got Medicaid waiver, I guess is included in that. What else have we got included in that?
The nutrition program, SHIP, which is the health insurance program, actual
dollars that are coming through RCOG to us as AG.
Right.
And in the county on top of that, so, as far as actual maintaining of this building, it's running, Bob, I think it's running us about $1,300 a month, something like that, just for the utilities and the phones and that type of maintenance.
You hear her?
Now, in that, to answer your question, because I want to make sure we answer your question, we'll put it in the paper, we'll get with Wes and actually put the dollars it takes to run this. Like I said, it is difficult for this building because of all the different funds. I mean, we operate from this building, we operate the rural public transportation, which is the transportation program, our buses that run around. The Medicaid waiver, which those folks really, they're never here, are they? They're out in the field and doing those operations. So when you know, if you talk about salaries, that's a whole other thing. If you're just, are you just talking about utilities though, or are you talking about salaries, or?
Just to keep it going, I mean,
Okay.
I mean, you have to have salaries.
Right. So yeah.
You're really referring to the budget, what
Yes,
we
budget.
budget every year. Okay.
And you just submitted that, actually, you might be able to answer that, or you're working on that, I know now.
Well, I get to work on several different budgets for that. We get, I call it little pots of money from here, there, and everywhere, but our total budget, I'm thinking would be around, with all of our programs, is going to be around 300,000 or less.
Yeah, I thought I might have, I've got a general fund budget in here, I don't have one for this center, but we will get that in the paper to make sure you have the answer to that question. To explain that a little bit more. You know, when we talk about budgets too, we talk about the salaries, we talk about utilities and all those things. Obviously, salaries are going to be a bigger part. We are a service industry, that's what government is. You know, we're not providing necessarily a product, we're selling tags. We're here, we're providing a place for folks to enjoy and come to. But we will get some numbers out there and have somewhat of a breakdown to kind of get out for you.
You have a senior citizen like it on the mountain section and all those places. Each city has a senior center.
Right. We have how many centers in the county?
There's 7 in the county, including this.
Right. And each of those is operated by a part-time staff, which belongs to the county personnel. So we have part-time people in each of those 7 centers, which is county personnel that handles the food programs that they do and handles activities that they do and all that. In a lot of cases, like in Stevenson, that center is subsidized by the city. They pay utilities, I think, on that building there. So we just pay the staff and some of the other operation programs. Here, the city of Scottsboro pays for the utilities in this building over here. So there's that kind of relationship there also. But Ms. Thurman, our employee, does actually oversee a lot of the processes over there. So there is a lot of tied into that as well as far as involvement with the different municipalities and their centers also. And as far as the budget goes, you know, if anyone has any questions on any budget, we would be glad to sit down and show you the breakdown and give you the answers to those questions. We have several departments. The way that county budgets work, it gets kind of confusing sometimes with these dollars here and those dollars there. But, you know, that's the point of all this. We've had so many people say, well, you need to make more cuts. Well, you know, sit down with me and show me where we can make those cuts and not hurt anybody, and we can do that. I've told the employees, I've been meeting with employees over the past few weeks, and saying, if you see waste, we need to know about it. You've got to tell us, because they're out there every day. They see what's going on. And you know, they may jabber about this or complain about that. But if they see something, they need to let us know so that we can fix it. And I hope the same thing would come from our citizens, that if they see there's something that can be done better, you know, let us know. That's why, again, why we're here and doing this and going through this whole process. I do want to make a caveat about Public Works. I know we've got a lot of concerns there with a lot of the changes that are happening. We're doing a whole restructuring of Public Works. We've got a new engineer coming in. We know that there are things that can be done better with our Public Works department, just as there are with a lot of county agencies. But you know, we'll continue to work to make that happen. The employees are excited about these changes, I think. So, you know, we know that there are problems. Some of them take more time to get accomplished, but you know, we're going to continue to try to make those things better and be more efficient with what we do have. Other questions or comments? sure you make me tell you to get that number. We put our whole budget in there, but again, it just be, we put a general budget every year and publish that, but it gets really confusing again when you start looking at how the dollars go from place to place.
You know, when you talk about the fire departments and the rescue squad, I don't think everybody fully understands the work that these agencies do. When Chuck took office, he said, when the rescue squad gets called out, we will get called. One of us will be out there with them. And it's almost every week we're somewhere, Walls of Jericho, out on the river, where they're trying to rescue somebody. We've been out there for what's the longest? We've been out there several days in a row in the cold and rain with them. These guys are volunteering their time. I can't imagine a county without the rescue squad being available 24 hours a day like they are now. They never complain. They always come out. They work their tails off. Then they go to their regular jobs, and they make their paychecks. Without those guys, without the volunteer fire departments, we'd have to take on a lot more responsibility with a lot less people. And if the cuts have to come, obviously we're going to still protect the people in the county. If we have 2 deputies, we'll do it with 2 deputies, but it's going to be a whole lot tougher. It's very difficult with what we've got now. So I just want to throw those little things out that mean a lot to us.
Plus, these volunteers spend a lot of their own money. They buy gasoline, they buy tires, they buy their own equipment. They spend a lot of their own money and never even mention it. You know, stuff that's under the scene that we don't know about.
I was a member of the rescue squad years ago, and I know what he says. You get called out 2 o'clock in the morning, midnight, 3, somebody's lost in the woods. But they don't realize this, they don't come home late at night, and they get to looking, and they can't find them, and that's where we get called. And the money that pays the budget that's given to the squads are to buy newer equipment, better equipment, up-to-date equipment. I mean, it does go a long ways because you keep using the same old stuff, it wears out. And you also dig it in your own pocket. You know, I've been out as many as 4 days in a row for the squad. I took off my job and didn't get paid for it, but I wanted to be there with the squad.
I'll tell you one more thing too, volunteer fire departments, they actually save the county some overtime money because those volunteers go out in different parts and cut trees off the roads where public works would normally have to go do that. You know, sometimes these guys cut things off our roads and we don't even know them. But it's a tremendous asset, these volunteer fire departments, and I think they should be rewarded with some more funding.
I remember in '93 at the snowstorm, I worked 3 days and nights without coming off the road. We hauled dialysis patients all over the county.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Whenever snowstorms hit, they handle all that dialysis and work with the EMA office.
I know you said that right now your deficit is $350,000, and that's with the funding you're receiving now.
Correct.
And one of your big funding resources is the TVA and lieu tax, and you're foreseeing that to go down, right?
Right.
To receive less money from that.
Right. There's no way to tell. We usually don't know until we get that check in November. My guess right now is maybe $200,000 next year. I think the most we saw was $178,000 one year. We saw a pretty big cut one year, and because the coal plant now is closed altogether, so in 2013 and 2015, $178,000 reduction, and you know the coal plant was still going. So I think we stand to see a good at least $200,000, unless TVA says they're trying to work it where it's not going to hit us all at once. If they do that before October, maybe it'll be 100,000 as opposed to 200,000. But we'll just have to kind of see what happens with that. But that's a lot of eggs have been in that basket, and that basket's just about gone or fading away fast. And even with TVA and lieu tax, if we can invest in industrial development and see the benefits of that, again, you see something to kind of offset it as opposed to. Other questions or comments? And back to on the in lieu of tax, another quick point, the coal plant, Bellefonte, those are 50% of what we get comes from those two assets. If the coal plant closes down altogether, if they write off that asset, Bellefonte's under accelerated depreciation. That's why we're seeing these drops that we've never seen before, is because those assets are depreciating. That dollars we get for the in lieu of tax is not from the land they own. If it was from the land they owned, we might be doing okay. But we get pennies for the land they own. The in lieu of tax is really from their assets and power sales, and 50% of that being the assets. Once they're gone, we're at least cut in half at that point. So it hurts.
So you need money and need it now.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly. We talk about, well, we can always kick the can, and if this doesn't pass, try something else for next year. But we felt like we had to move forward with this now. There is no. Let's see if there's. Wait till next year. Wait to see what happens then. We're at the breaking point in a sense. Again, we've got our piggy bank, and that piggy bank's just about gone. We don't want to deplete it to where if something emergency did happen, we're in real big trouble.
But we have to pave more roads. I mean, that's the reality. And if you ride on them, you can see that they're falling apart. And I'm probably the one that's guilty of talking about bringing them back to dirt, because it's just reality.
Yeah.
It ain't like I said, I ain't trying to scare nobody. It's just I ride on them, and I know how many we're doing per year. And with the in lieu of tax money and everything going down, instead of doing 12, we may do 6. And it's going to take us 130 years. Well, it just ain't going to happen. And you can't let holes keep getting in them, because then it becomes a danger. So what do? Then you got to scrape it up, turn it back to dirt, and keep it graded. That's the safest way to do it.
And 6 miles of road for a county this big ain't much road.
We have 1,100 miles of roadway, so. Yeah, like I said, 90 years to get back to what we paved last year. That's at 12 miles of road.
That's about from here to the courthouse, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've averaged 13 3/4 miles over the last 8 years on all of that 07. 13 3/4 miles.
That's why we're getting where we're at, because we've only been doing that for so many years. Now it's really starting to show up. Anything else? Like I said, we could talk all night. Probably don't want to do that. If you have questions, comments, if you have things that come up, if you have rumors that you hear, please, contact any one of us. Contact anybody that we want to be able to share with you. And if you want to, we'll sit down and we'll show it in black and white. We want to make sure folks understand, and we want to show you that what we're looking at. So please feel free to contact us if you have any questions or comments. If you support the tax, I do hope that you'll get out and talk to friends, family about it. Share some of the facts that we talked about tonight. I hear every day about the negativity of whether this tax will pass or not. I've got my eye on the prize, and we've got to aim for it. So I would appreciate, if you see the need for it, please, we've got to get out and work for it as well. We've got 9 more weeks, I think, from tomorrow to make this happen. So we've just got to continue to work to do that. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for taking the time to understand a little bit. I do want to mention, the mayor and council, I know they're not here with us tonight. They had a council meeting, but I do plan to go to their council meeting on the 13th of July, share with them this information as well, so that, we make sure all our community leaders, we've been to a couple different councils throughout Jackson County and talking with groups, and we've done several community meetings. So I do appreciate their efforts, and I appreciate the relationship that we've had working with them, and I want to make sure they have the information as well. So, we'll do the same thing there. If there are any other questions, or if you want some more, if you come up with more questions or want more understanding, we'll be there on the 13th. So, I think that's everything. Anything else? Anybody have other question, comment?
What's the actual date of the vote of the
August 18th.
I'd like to thank you and the rest of the commissioners for trying to be so transparent about this. Thank you.
We say we want open government, so if you have any way we can be more open, please tell us. We try to put probably more than anyone wants to hear out there, so we'll continue to try to put that out there. Commissioners, anything else, Mr. Miller?
No, sir.
Mr. Guffey?
No, sir.
Mr. Venable?
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming out. And I ran for office, got elected. I never would have dream that we supported the one that sales tax. We're not out trying to convince people to vote for it. We just want you to know the circumstances and why we proposed this. We're prepared to do what we've got to do this next fiscal year to balance the budget either way. And we appreciate you coming out tonight.
Mr. Levin?
I'd like to thank you for coming also, and remind you that if you do have a question, or someone asks you a question, and you don't have the answer, feel free to call us. We'll be more than happy to go over it with you and show you, and try to help you better understand the situation we're facing. But I do thank you for coming out.
I do want to, well, we can talk about on the budget, from the county portion, I think we put about $100,000 into this whole program. A lot of it's federal dollars. Like I said, we'll get that, but I did want to clarify that. It's not that. Sheriff, do you have anything? Thank you all again for coming out and joining us. We'll stick around for a few minutes if anybody wants to talk or has any other questions. And with that, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion, we have a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, say no.